Man, I don't know. I really don't. Oh, come on. What's there to think about? Let's go. Kyle kept pushing. I'll think about it. Think about what? I cut him off mid-sentence. You live to find trouble. Me? I'm not exactly thrilled about this little plan. Kyle went quiet for a beat, then tried again. Tim, just tell me what exactly you don't like. I sighed and laid it all out, slow and careful. Here's what I didn't like. My buddy had a very particular hobby. Kyle hunted down interesting places around our great state. Not landmarks, not parks, not scenic overlooks. He looked for locations tied to the paranormal so-called anomalous zones. And every time he found one, he tried to drag me along. That stuff's not really my thing. Spending my one free weekend in the middle of nowhere never thrilled me. Though I'll admit, at first I was curious. I'd gone with him more than once, but nothing ever happened besides mosquito bites, cold or heat, and a lot of discomfort. Maybe we were unlucky. Maybe it's all just stories, and there's nothing truly weird about those places. Kyle knew how I felt. Lately, he'd been going alone, just not this time. He said he'd found a spot in our county where, almost 50 years ago, a group disappeared. Maybe hikers, maybe UFO buffs. Back in the 70s, folks interested in that kind of thing didn't always call themselves paranormal investigators, so no one's sure what those people really were. Either way, the place had a reputation. Just a modest patch of woods ringed by a few settlements. No one knows exactly when the weirdness started, but the small towns around it emptied out one by one. People just walked away from their homes. A tiny local paper ran a piece. Folks vanish out there. Animals avoid it. Kyle had done his homework. He even pulled a clipping. He'd told me all this last week. I promised I'd decide by the weekend. Today was Friday, so he came for a straight answer. Honestly, the whole thing felt sketchy. I'm not a believer, and after a few trips with him, I was a full-blown skeptic. I'm done. I finished my little speech and looked at him. Tim, dude, this time will be different. You 100% sure about that? 110, he said. Tell you what, let's put money on it. Say, $100. Deal. I didn't hesitate. Whoa, big talk, he grinned. You're gonna owe me. Uh-huh, you'll be paying me. Half an hour later, he was out the door, and I started packing. A windbreaker, first aid kit, rubber boots, bug spray, stuffed it all into a duffel. Kyle picked me up in the morning, and we headed for the woods. I planned to nap on the way, but he had other ideas. He launched into a breathless update about what he'd dug up online the night before. Okay. So, turns out they weren't UFO guys. They were hikers. How wonderful, I said, pure sarcasm. No, listen. The article said they didn't find any special equipment at the campsite, but that doesn't prove anything. If the people are gone, the gear could be gone too. You know what I think? What? That nobody really cared enough to keep digging. If they didn't find the people, they sure weren't going to look hard for their stuff. You probably fell for another internet fake. Well, the newspaper, Kyle started. You ever heard of tabloids? I cut in. He let it drop, and we drove in near silence, tossing the occasional line back and forth. We're here, he said finally, easing the car onto the shoulder. We grabbed our things, got out, and started toward the spot. I felt lousy about snapping at him earlier, and the farther we walked, the worse I felt. Kyle, sorry man, I shouldn't have been a jerk. It's fine. I shouldn't have dragged you out here knowing you don't love this stuff. I do care, really. Okay, tell me what the internet says about this place. That was all he needed. He launched into a long, detailed download. The woods, he said, had an unofficial name. The Witches' Circle. Long ago, witches gathered there, held Sabbaths, did rituals, or just met up for any excuse. No one knew for years that this was a favorite haunt for witches, conjurers, and other unclean things, as the stories put it. But secrets don't stay secrets. Eventually, the locals caught wind and organized a raid. That night, blood spilled. Some were killed, others maimed. The few who escaped fled their homes. One surviving witch swore she'd curse the place and anyone who dared step into it. A random traveler might limp out with a scare. The curse went. But anyone who came with other motives wouldn't be spared. And those who'd killed her sisters would pay in full. The townsfolk didn't take the threat seriously. Big mistake. First, the chickens stopped laying for everyone. Then the fish stopped biting, even with plenty in the pond. Milk soured in hours. Then it got worse. Livestock started dropping, fast. In a day, half the households lost an animal. A cow here, a pig there, someone's entire coop. People realized she hadn't been bluffing and went to beg her forgiveness, only she was gone. No one knew where. So folks abandoned their houses and left. Those who stayed disappeared. That, Kyle said, was centuries ago. More legend than fact. So we should stick to what's recent, he went on. In the 20th century, they tried to revive those nearby towns. Didn't take. Animals kept dying. Crops failed. As for the missing folks, here's the story. 5 college guys came to study the area, all engineering students. One was the de facto leader. His dad later said the kid was obsessed, kept notebooks, did calculations, but those notes vanished somehow. The families didn't raise the alarm till day 5. The guys were supposed to be back the day before. When people finally looked, they found a fire pit, a couple tents, some trash. No clothes, no gear, nothing. This wasn't our first outing, but there was a lot more lore attached to this place than usual. By the time we reached the tree line, set up camp and cooked, evening had crept in without us noticing. "Come on, let's poke around," Kyle said. "And what exactly are we supposed to find?" I smirked. "I don't know, old stuff. Artifacts." I laughed. "With what, your bare hands? You didn't even bring a metal detector." He shot me a look and said, "Fine, I'll take a walk. You stay." "Yeah, go cool off." He took his phone, a pack of cigarettes, and wandered off. I stayed with the camp and cracked a cold beer from the cooler. I had no idea where he found the energy. I was already wiped. He came back a couple hours later, practically glowing. "Look what I found." He held out his palm, a little charm or talisman on a grimy string. "Where'd you get that?" "Hanging from a branch. Otherwise, just woods being woods." "Somebody's about to lose some money," he teased. "Dude, it's basically night. Get your cash ready." "Fine, you win. I'll pay up when we're back in town." Right after midnight, we crashed. I fell asleep fast, but I didn't make it to morning. The beer caught up with me. I had to crawl out of the sleeping bag and step away from camp to take a leak. I hadn't gone far when I froze. A branch snapped close by. Great. Neither of us had thought about predators. Should I move away or stay still? I decided to hold position and bolt for a tree if anything charged. A minute passed. Nothing. I started to glance around. Couldn't stand there forever. Okay, go back. Wait. What the... A shape stood a few yards away, low to the ground, animal-sized, from the height. I couldn't tell what in the pitch dark. I wasn't moving until it left. It didn't. It stood facing me. And then it did something that turned my stomach. It rose up onto 2 legs. That's when I knew it wasn't an animal, probably a person. But the longer I stared at the face, the closer I came to blacking out from fear. It was a person. Once, but by the look of him, he'd been dead a long time. His features were all wrong, swollen, warped. People don't look like that. Do something. I bent slowly, silently, picked up a pine cone, and lobbed it into the dark the other way. The ghoul turned toward the sound. While it moved, I slipped back toward the tent. Kyle! Kyle, wake up! I hissed, shaking his shoulder. What time is it? No idea. Get up. We're leaving. What happened? I saw it. Saw what? His voice climbed. Shut up, I whispered. A corpse. I went to pee something, crawled out of the brush. We're leaving now. Kyle sat up and stared at me like an idiot. Don't freeze on me. Let's go. He nodded and wriggled out as quietly as he could. Without discussing it, we left the gear and grabbed only the essentials. I was starting to calm down when, somewhere deeper in the trees, a loud, ringing laugh cut through the dark, a woman's laugh, bright and delighted. It sounded happy. It made me want to cry. We were alone out here. Enjoying yourself now, I muttered. Shut up. I know we're in it deep. He swallowed. You remember where the car is? Yeah. Welcome to your anomalous zone, he said. Pray we walk out of this. Maybe we're not alone, I said. Maybe someone else pulled in. I hope so, he said, picking up the pace. I had to hustle to keep up. That's when he stopped dead for no reason, and I plowed into his back. What are you doing? Quiet, he hissed, peering into the dark. What are you looking at? I asked. He exhaled hard and clamped a hand over his mouth. One look at his face, and I knew this was bad. Tell me. Tim, don't panic, okay? Say it. Remember when I went scouting earlier? I've already passed this spot. We've been walking the wrong way, away from the car. What? I pulled out my phone to dial 911. Black screen. Dead. What the hell? It was at 80% this evening. How? Kyle, you got your phone? Yeah. Call 911. Tell them we're lost. Right. He dug it out and thumbed the side button. Then again. And again. What's going on? It shut off. He tried a few more times. Nothing. We just stood there, staring at each other, out of words. Okay, I said finally. This sucks, but standing still isn't a plan. Agreed. When I scouted, I memorized some of the terrain. Let's head the other way. One way or another we came in, so there's a way out. Probably just got turned around. We had no better option. We pivoted and started the opposite direction. For a while it was calm. Kyle began marking trees, carving small slashes with his pocket knife. No idea how long we walked, maybe an hour. Then my heart stuttered. Oh, hell no. What? Look, I said, pointing at a fresh, clean slash on the bark. Kyle stared. No, 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 no. This can't be real. What do we do now? Tim, let's just assume we're lost. Night doesn't last forever. Dawn's coming, and we'll get out. Let's take a break. We're walking in circles anyway. Might as well save our strength. Fine. Break it is, I said, and he sank straight to the ground. It felt like a bad dream. Any second, my alarm would go off and I'd wake up in my own bed. Don't say anything, Kyle murmured. When we make it out, I'm selling all my gear. Every last piece. You know what? I think I'll finally do the one thing I always wanted. Get a dog. Been putting it off forever. I knew that was your dream. Seriously. Wanted one since I was a kid. Begged my folks. They wouldn't budge. Then college happened, and it never seemed like the right time. What kind? Beats me. Used to think a collie. Now I'd be happy with anything. What about you? What's your big one? Skydiving, he said. Terrifies me and I want it anyway. After tonight, nothing scares me. Yeah, after this, no horror movie's ever going to work on me again. We rambled random topics, anything to steady ourselves and hold on until first light. After that, to hell with everything else. You know what I just remembered? Kyle asked. What? I haven't called my parents in forever. When I get home, I'm calling them. How are yours? Don't even start. I haven't managed to visit in 6 months, and it's only a half hour by train. But you talk at least. Yeah, about once a week. See? Could be worse. I've got a lot to make up for, and soon. They'll get it, I said. They'll be happy to hear from you. When are you seeing yours? Tomorrow. I mean, today. Technically. Good. Do it. What time do you think it is? No idea. Feels like 2 a.m. Maybe later. When does dawn even get here? I muttered. That's when we heard it. A sound rising out of the dark trees. Not one voice, but many. A low, rolling chorus. You hear that? Kyle's voice was tight. Yeah, I'm not deaf. Just don't let it reach us. If it does, we hide, I said, trying and steady him and myself. But the murmur swelled, a crowd's hum thickening into something else. We got to our feet and moved, any direction that wasn't toward the sound. At first, we put some distance between us and it. Minutes later, the same rumble rose ahead of us. Panic ratcheted up. We bolted left, then right, like trapped animals. You're the expert, I snapped. What is this? Remember the story I told you, how they killed the witches here? I remember. But we're not witches. Yeah, but the survivor said anyone who stepped onto this ground would pay. That was centuries ago, man. Even if she was real, she's long gone. Then explain this. How? You called it an anomalous zone. Congratulations, we found one. A shout ripped the night behind us. I spun and stared. A man stood a few yards away, soot-streaked, wearing baggy, handmade-looking clothes, a torch in one hand, an axe in the other. A wall of people loomed behind him, all the same. Hair wild, faces smeared with ash or dirt, dressed like they'd walked out of a museum diorama. Wait, what do you want? I stammered. Where are your devils now? An old woman jeered from the crowd. Who do you bargain with out here? Devils? We wandered in by mistake. We'll just leave, okay? Leave? The man roared. Don't try to charm us. He jabbed the axe toward us. Take them! That was the last thing he said before the mob lunged. We ran. I begged whatever might be listening for sunrise, for any hint of gray in the sky. The dark didn't budge. I don't know how long we sprinted, but another line of figures materialized ahead, closing in from the opposite side. Torches, axes, pitchforks, farm tools turned weapons. Kyle didn't see the root or the stump. He went down hard. I tripped over him and crashed onto his back. We were trapped. "Please let this be a dream," I whispered. "Brothers, burn them!" someone bellowed. I scrambled to my feet just in time to see people setting the dry grass alight from all sides. Flame raced around us, hems of fire stitching into a ring. I ran and jumped, the narrowest gap. Mated then plowed into the crowd. Hands clamped my arms, my legs. They tossed me back into the fire circle like I weighed nothing. Kyle tried to break out too. They shoved him back in with me. "You're all gonna die for this," I shouted, throat raw, and threw myself at the nearest shape. White-hot pain punched my gut. I staggered and looked down. Someone had driven a pitchfork into me. They heaved me back into the ring. Kyle lay crumpled, not moving, a thin ribbon of blood running from his forehead. They'd cracked him with something heavy. The sun didn't come. The fire climbed, leaning toward us, closer and closer. "I'm sorry, Mom. Dad," I said to no one and everyone. I didn't make it back.